What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Cameron, and today I'm going to be making a tutorial showing you guys how to add a FNaF 2 flashlight mechanic into your Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. So, flashlight, it's from Five Nights at Freddy's 2, it's from most of the games. It just helps you see shit, like a flashlight would. But it's used in FNaF 2 to deter animatronics and see if they are in the hallway in front of you. Obviously, we're not going to delve into animatronics or anything with the flashlight, but we will show you, or I'll show you how to kind of just get a brief idea on how to actually use a flashlight mechanic in your game. So, this is a part of my side tutorial series on how to make a FNaF fan game in Clickteam Fusion 2.5. This is part... I actually forget. I think it's part 2A, I'm pretty sure. I think I'm wrong about that, or part like 3A or something, but either way, let's do this. So, the first step we want to do is, obviously you want to have like your office and stuff ready. This is obviously in a totally different environment, so I can actually get this flashlight mechanic down. But basically the main synopsis and how this is actually going to work is whenever I press control, it'll shine a flashlight which will show the hallway like this. Now, if you've seen this tutorial series, obviously I'm not gonna do it in the way where it's like switch animation frame to 1 whenever you press control and then switch it to 0. This hallway is always gonna be here, but we are just gonna hide the hallway with some subtract tools and other stuff, so it kind of makes it seem like you can't see down there even though it's always visible in your game. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. So I already have 2 layers. One of them is just for like a darkness effect, which if you follow the series, you should have a darkness effect for your 2D game. Which if you do, then you don't really have to worry about it. But even if you don't have a darkness tool, it's not a big deal. Which actually I'll just get rid of this real quick just to show you guys from scratch. But basically, once you have your first layer with your office, now we want to make a new layer. And in layer 2, we want to go over to properties and we want to go down to effect. And in effect, we just want to edit it. So instead of having no effect, we want to press this standard with the plus to the left and then just put it to subtract. So pretty much this will be like it'll just kind of make it darker in a way. And if you have a second layer with the subtract tool on, pretty much half the battle is done. So now the next step I'm going to do is I am going to make a darkness tool all around my canvas just to make it seem a little dark. Because if you look at the frame right now, it's pretty bright. So I think I'm just gonna go into it and actually just make something work real quick. So I'm gonna go right click, insert object, active, and I am going to rename this darkness. This is obviously if you don't have it. If you have it, then you don't have to worry about this. I'm gonna double click into this and I'm going to change it to the size of my frame, which the size of my frame is 1280 by 720. And then once you change the size of it, go over to this clear button up here, and then go over to your fill tool, and then over to this side over here with all this palette of white and black. This is your most important tool for like subtracting stuff. So the way subtract works is it makes it so that you can add on kind of like an illusion to make it seem like it's shining light. So white in this case is actually the darkest tool, so it'll make the office dark, like completely black. So if I paint this white and I press OK, boom, the office is now completely black because it is subtract. It's the opposite. But if I paint it black, it'll be white and it'll be clear and you can see through the office. So you kind of want to find the smooth spot. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pick like a gray right here. And as you can see, there's a darkness to it now. So once you have the darkness and you kind of like what you have here, press OK. And now we actually can import our flashlight and stuff. So this kind of applies to the same thing. So we're going to go right click, insert object. And the first object I'm actually going to include is the actual darkness in the hallway. So we're going to make the hallway dark first. So to do that, we go right click, insert object, active, and we are going to rename this to hallway darkness. And once you have that, what I would do is I would actually move this into your canvas and just is resize it so it covers the entire hallway. So I'm just gonna resize it so it does that. So I'm just gonna increase the size of it, and as you can see, this blue line is covering the hallway, so you can't see through it. And once you have that, double click into it, and then just clear it, so you get rid of that rhombus. Go over to your fill tool, and this time paint the edit, the active, white, because obviously if you paint it white, it'll be completely dark. So as you can see, now the hallway is, well, completely dark. So that works pretty well. And now I am going to go over, and you can obviously make the hallway like a little dark or whatever. It really all depends on you. But now I'm going to insert an object, and this will be my actual flashlight. So I'm gonna call this flashlight beam. And the thing about this is your flashlight also needs to be dark. So I already have a custom-made flashlight in here somewhere. Where is it? Right here. So as you can see, I have a FNaF 2 flashlight, and as you can see, this flashlight is black. So you can see through the flashlight necessarily. So the reason it's black is because if you insert this black flashlight beam on your second layer, it'll make it white, and it'll make it clear so you can see through the hallway darkness and your actual darkness. So to prove this works, if you press OK, and you already have your flashlight, you press OK, boom! It actually acts as a normal flashlight, and you can actually see in your hallway. Pretty cool. And obviously, if you paint it black, for example, or no, white. If you paint it white, as you can see, it just makes it darker now. So obviously, that's why you want to have a black in there, is because it just kind of, I don't really know, it kind of seeps through the other darknesses and stuff like that. And obviously, if you run the frame, this is already working, which is great. And once you have that, now we're going to actually make this flashlight work. So we're going to go over to our event editor, and I'm going to go over to new condition. I'm going to go over to storyboard controls, start a frame, and honestly, for the starter frame, we don't got to worry about anything for right now, but later in the tutorial, if you want to keep watching, I'm going to add stuff like a flashlight battery and stuff like that. So if you want to stick with it, you know, just have a starter frame if you're going to stay later in the tutorial, but for right now, this is good. And you don't even have to make the flashlight invisible because it's going to do that automatically anyway. So we're going to go over to new condition right after. And this time we're going to go over to the mouse pointer and keyboard, the keyboard, repeat while key is pressed. And then we're going to press control. And while the repeat while control is pressed is on, go over to our flashlight beam, right click, visibility, reappear. So what this will do is basically repeat while control is pressed is necessarily a whenever you're holding down this button. I don't know why it's called repeat while control is pressed. Really it should be when control is held, because that's pretty much what it means. So this is really just saying whenever your control key is held in, then the flash is going to reappear. But obviously we need to make it invisible, so we're going to go over to new condition, the mouse pointer and keyboard, the keyboard, repeat while key is pressed, again, control, but this time we're going to go right click and negate it. So pretty much it's just saying when your control key is not held in. And when it's not held in, go over to your flashlight beam, right click, visibility, make object invisible. And then if you run the frame, boom, flashlight is gone because it's not getting held, the control is not getting held in. But if I hold in control, boom, I can see the hallway. And obviously you can do this as many times as you want. You're gonna spam it, you know, do all of that. So pretty much your flashlight's already done. Your tutorial over, flashlight done. Obviously if you're happy with this and you're happy with like the flashlight working and you don't really care about like battery or nothing like that, then you're good. But now the next step is I'm gonna actually just improve on the flashlight. I'm gonna make it look more like a flashlight, and because this is kind of like just a still image and it's kind of boring in a way, so I'm just gonna kind of fiddle around with it and make it seem like it's kind of like flickering in a way. Obviously you don't have to do this, but this is kind of a cool idea that I want to do. And then after this we'll move on to battery. So we're gonna go back, go over to new condition, and we're gonna say mouse pointer and keyboard, the keyboard, repeat while mouse key is pressed, control again, but this time we're gonna go right click, insert, the timer, every, and we're gonna say use a calculation. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to random range, and I am just gonna change this number to 1 to 100 because I want this to be very quick between the flickers. I don't want it to be like super long in between the intervals. So I'm just gonna say every 1 to 100th of a second. And then I'm gonna go over to my flashlight beam, right click, effect, set alpha blending coefficient, and we're gonna say random range again. So this is pretty much just making it flicker in a way. And obviously, as you can see, alpha blending coefficient 0 to 255. 255 is the most invisible, 0 is the most visible. So I want to kind of put this in a range where you can still see the flashlight pretty well, but it just has like a light flicker, so it kind of makes it more invisible in a way. So I'll just say our random 35 to 50, because that's a pretty light flicker, and I think it'll work. So after you have that, now we're just gonna go back, and then we're gonna go over to run frame, and now, boom, there's a light flicker to it now because every R random 1 to 100, it flickers between 35 and 50, making it very light, a very light flicker. So that works out pretty well. But obviously, if you want your flicker to be more, more obvious in a way, you can go over to set alpha blending coefficient to R random 35 to 50. You can just go like right click and edit it so it's like 0 to 50 or like 35 to 100 or something like that. So if I play this again, I'll see how I like this. And this has more of a flicker to it. I don't really like this kind of flicker too much because it just kind of makes it like painfully obvious, and I don't really like that. So I'm just gonna edit it and just make it like 25 to 50, and I'll see how I like that. So if I go back and do this, I think that looks a little better. I do like that a lot more, and yeah, that's how you make a nice little flicker effect to it. Now we're gonna move on to the actual battery mechanics. So I'm just gonna go over to a new condition and go right click, insert a group of events, and I'm just gonna title this flashlight battery because this is kind of more stuff to it. So I'm gonna say flashlight battery, and then once you have that, we're gonna go back to our frame editor, and we're going to insert a couple things. So we're gonna go right click, insert object, and the first thing we're gonna insert is a counter, and we're going to rename this counter to flashlight drainage activation, which pretty much this means if this is set to 0, that means the flashlight's off and power will not be taken. But if the flashlight's on, this will be set to 1, which means battery will go down. So after you have this, I'm actually going to move this to a new layer so you can see it a lot better. So I'm going to go over to new layer and then just slide this counter up to your 3rd layer. Perfect, and I can see it a lot better. And after you have that, go to insert object and insert another counter. And this will be for actual flashlight battery. So I will just rename this to, what are you doing in here? Flashlight battery. And once you have that, now we can get right to work. So I'm going to go over to the event editor, and over in the start of frame up here, since we already said it, I'm going to go over to my flashlight battery, and I'm going to go right click and set the max battery to 100. Yeah, typical 100. And once you have that, now we're going to go over to repeat while control is pressed, and while control is pressed, we will go over to our flashlight drainage activation, right click, set counter to 1, and then I'm going to go over to the other one where it says while the control key is not held in, and I'll go over to the flashlight drainage activation and go right click, set counter to 0. So if I run the frame and I hold in control, this counter is now set to 1, and if I let go, boom, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0. I'm pretty much just giving out binary code right now. So pretty much we have that working, and now the next step is to actually make it so that when this is set to 1, this goes down. So we're gonna go back. I'm gonna go down to our flashlight battery, new condition, and we're gonna say flashlight drainage activation. I'm gonna click it, compare the count to your value, 1, and when it's set to 1, I'm gonna go right click, insert, the timer every, and I'll say every 35 hundredths of a second, and every 35 hundredths of a second, we're gonna go over to our flashlight battery, go right click, subtract from counter, 1. So pretty much what this does is every 35 seconds, while this is set to 1, this will just go down by 1. And the reason I put in every event in there is because if it's just set to 1, it'll automatically subtract 1 at the fastest speed possible, because there's nothing saying how slow or how fast it should go, so it's automatically going to go faster than the speed of light, pretty much. So if I run the frame and I hold the control, as you can see, it's set to 1 and the battery is going down, which is nice. So it's going down pretty quick in my opinion, but we are gonna make it like that for the tutorial. Actually gonna make it even quicker just so we can get the tutorial rolling a little faster. But obviously in the future we'll make it so that your battery goes down a lot slower. But once you have that and you're happy with that, the only thing we really have to fix with this is whenever this reaches 0, it kind of just keeps going on forever and ever and ever, which is not preferable, I would say, because obviously once you have no battery, you shouldn't be able to use the flashlight. So we're gonna change that, but to just give you a little synopsis and a little showing of it. Whenever this counter right here reaches 0 or below, it's gonna keep going, and you can kind of keep using it. And obviously you can't have negative power, that doesn't make sense. So to do this, you could always just go up to repeat while control is pressed and go right click, insert, we'll say flashlight battery, compare the count to value, and we'll say when it is greater than 0. So pretty much if your battery is set to 0, you can't use it anymore. So, you know, you can't use it anymore, which is great. But obviously there is a little issue with this as well, which I gotta make it even quicker, just cause I'm not waiting all that time. So I'll just set it to 15 for this one. But obviously there's a little issue with this. So whenever you're holding control, obviously you can't hold in control anymore as soon as you get to this point. You know, obviously when you get below 0 or equal to 0, you can't click it anymore, right? But if you keep it held in, even if it's below 0, you can still kind of have it on. But obviously if I let go of the control and I try to press it in again, it don't work, because you can only click it when it's above 0. So yeah, and obviously to fix this, we could always just go over to new condition, go over to flashlight battery, compare the constant value when it is lower or equal than 0, and then when it's lower or equal than 0, go over to your flashlight beam, right click, destroy, go over to your flashlight drainage activation, right click, destroy, and go over to your flashlight battery, right click, destroy. So pretty much this will give her all code correlated to it, and it'll just get rid of it entirely from the frame. So to prove this works, we're just gonna wait until this reaches 0, and when it reaches 0, it should not work no more. And you can't actually see the battery, you can't activate it again, nothing like that. So here we go, and boom. Everything's gone up here because we destroyed it, so you can no longer press control to see through your hallway. And obviously, if you're happy with that, hey, that's good. You got it done. If you're happy with all this, hey, that's cool. But obviously, I think this looks really sloppy in my opinion, and I kind of want to make like a bar or something that kind of shows how much battery you have. So I'm gonna just go right click, insert object, and this is just gonna show how much battery I have without showing how much battery I have. It's kind of like a 6 a.m. You know, idea where it's like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Yeah, it shows you the hour, but it doesn't show you the exact time, you know? It could be like 1:12, 1:17, 2:18, you know, stuff like that. That's kind of what we do for like the time, but this time we're just gonna do it with the flashlight. So I'm just gonna rename this to flashlight display. And in flashlight display, I'm gonna double click into it, and I already have kind of a reused asset. I clearly don't, but I'm just gonna rename this. If you have all your batteries and stuff, you can do that. But this is for my usage bar tutorial. I'm just too lazy to make a flashlight bar. So I'm just gonna kind of end it really quick. But obviously you want 5 frames, all depending on how much power you want to be lost in this case. So this is when your battery's full. It's set to 100. It is the wrong type of weight, god damn it. So obviously this is when you're at 100% power, or anything above 75% is this. And then anything above, 50% is this. Anything above 25% is this. And anything above 0% is this. And obviously if you reach 0, there's nothing here. So once you have that, go over to View Hotspot, hold down Alt and press the middle square, and once you have that, press OK, and then just put that somewhere in your display. So I'm going to put that right there. It's pretty big, so I'm just actually going to just shrink it up a bit. I think that looks fine. It might be a little hard to decipher, but I think that'll be fine. So once you have that, now we're going to go up to Event Editor, and now we're going to make it so that whatever power you have, it'll display this. So for example, like I said before, when it's at above 75%, 75% battery, it'll show this. When it's above 50%, it'll only show 3 bars, 25% 2 bars, and above 0% 1 bar. And obviously when it has 0%, then it'll show absolutely nothing. So, once you understand all of that, now we're going to go up to the event editor, and what we're going to do is we're going to make it so, obviously, like I said before, like I said 3 times already, 100% for 75, or, all that. But obviously, it all depends on what increments you have. So you can go in increments of like 20, so you can go like 100%, 80%, 60%, 40%, 20%, 0%. That's if you have 6 bars. For me, I only have 4 bars, so for 4 bars, it's obviously 100, 75, 50, 25. And obviously if you have what is it? That's for 5 bars, because technically you need a 0 bar in there. But anyway, now we're gonna do that. So we're gonna go over to New Condition. We're gonna go over to Flashlight Battery, commit the constant value. When it is set to 100, we'll go over to the Flashlight Display. Right click, Visibility, no, Animation, change animation frame to 0. Then we're gonna go over to New Condition. Go over to Flashlight Battery, commit the constant value, 75. Go over to Flashlight Display, right click, Animation, change animation frame to 1. New Condition, Flashlight Battery, commit the constant value, when it's equal to 50. Go over to Flashlight Display, right click, Animation, change animation frame to 2. I think. There you go. New Condition, Flashlight Battery, 25. Flashlight Display, Animation, change animation frame to 3. And then of course the final one, New Condition, Flashlight Battery, when it is equal to 0 I mean. Flashlight Display, Animation, change animation frame to 4. So automatically this should work. This should work now. No matter what, this should work. So as you can see right now, it is at 4 bars. Activate the flashlight. It's going down. When it reaches 75, boom, 3 bars. When it reaches 50, boom, 2 bars. When it equals 25, boom, 1 bar. And of course, when it reaches 0, nothing. No battery. And obviously, that's pretty much done. Some final touches would be if you wanted to go back to this when it is lower or equal than 0, you could always go over to your flashlight display, right click, destroy, so that also gets destroyed with all the code. And then you could also go over to repeat while control is pressed, and you can go right click, visibility, make object reappear, and obviously if it's not pressed, you can make it invisible, so that it kind of doesn't show all the time. So you can do it like that, so it only shows the battery when you have it on, and that's pretty much the main synopsis of it. So obviously, if you're happy with the stuff you have for the flashlight, the only thing you can really do now is just maybe adjust your every event, which I'm going to do, and then just move your counters out of the frame or out of the canvas, and you should be good. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more, let me know. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. See you guys.